My dad said she was a mistake into a phone he didn't hang up. 1 week later, I took everything they thought was theirs. It all started because my father forgot to hang up the phone. Those words I was never supposed to hear, slipped into my ear as naturally as air, and shattered something fundamental. I had only called about a minor errand, something about a car title, another quiet task I'd volunteered to handle, as I always did. He said he'd go check a folder in the garage. He set the phone down on the coffee table and walked off. But he didn't press the red button. He didn't disconnect. At first, I didn't even realize the line was still open. It was quiet, then I heard footsteps. The couch creaked, and then his voice, calm, level, almost emotionless. "She's just a burden," he said, as if he were stating something obvious. A disappointment. She should have never been born. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just sat there with the phone still pressed to my ear, frozen like a kid listening at a locked bedroom door. He wasn't yelling. That was the part that unsettled me most. He wasn't venting or furious. He was simply speaking, probably to my mother, or maybe to himself. Didn't matter. The message landed the same either way. A burden, a mistake, an unwanted weight. What made it worse was everything I had done for them. For the past 6 years, I had quietly covered their mortgage shortfalls, their unpaid credit cards, their utility bills. I had just paid $3,100 that month alone to cover their insurance costs. My dad's bad back meant he wasn't working again, and I stepped in like I always had, without complaint, without ever asking for anything in return. And then I heard this, the silence, the creak of the couch, then a truth I could never unhear. I didn't hang up. I let the call continue long past the point they realized it was still active. I heard the microwave beep, laughter, background sounds of a home filled with peace, as if they hadn't just gutted their daughter's heart without even knowing it. When the call finally cut off, either he noticed, or the battery died. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I sat still, staring at the window like it might offer some kind of answer. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Time behaves differently when everything inside you collapses. The very next morning, I walked into the bank, not for revenge, at least not yet, just to check on things. My mortgage was nearly finished. The house I had built, my sanctuary, had just been appraised at $960,000. It gave me options. Silent power. No one knew what I had, not even them. I called my real estate attorney that same day. I asked about transfer methods, title privacy, and sales that could be done quietly. He quoted a figure from a potential private buyer. I didn't flinch. Every step felt clinical, like assembling a machine I didn't entirely understand, but knew I had to complete. When I realized the property needed a few final upgrades, I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my coworkers, definitely not my family. I went to work. I waved to my neighbor. When my parents jetted off to Europe for their vacation, I even sent the usual message, "Have a great trip." They'd been able to afford it only because I helped refinance their home last year. Then I got to work, packing everything. Quietly, quickly. I sold the house, transferred the deed, forwarded all addresses, and disappeared. Let them sip wine in Lisbon, smile for selfies in front of the Eiffel Tower, enjoy their dream vacation with the money I had quietly provided for years. Let them have every moment, until the key no longer fit in the door, until they found the house emptied, until they saw the sticky note taped to the front door, a yellow square of paper with one sentence scrawled across it in thick black marker. Surprise. This is what a burden can do. I hadn't always thought of myself as someone who mattered. That realization came much later. In the beginning, I was simply the dependable one, the organizer, the fixer, the daughter who paid attention, met every deadline, remembered every birthday, and never made a scene. I worked hard, lived independently, earned well, and asked for nothing in return. I assumed that would be enough, and for a long time, they didn't really ask me for much, at least not directly. It started subtly, with lines like, "Your dad's back is really flaring up. Do you think you could cover the water bill this month? Or your brother's tuition snuck up on us, but we'll pay you back soon." Of course, except they never did. Eventually, they stopped pretending altogether. I wired $1,800 for new windows after a storm. When their car broke down and they called from the shoulder of the highway, panicked, I paid the repair bill that same day. When they were behind on property taxes and my mother called crying, I sent the money without hesitation. Later came the joint accounts, a shared credit card for emergencies, my name temporarily added to their mortgage just to help with refinancing, until one day I noticed my credit score slipping, quietly, gradually, like a bruise forming beneath the skin. Once I confronted them about an odd charge at a high-end furniture store. My dad laughed and said, "Oh, we figured you wouldn't mind. You don't really spend money on yourself anyway." My mother just added, "It was for the house, and technically it's yours too." Technically, when my uncle needed surgery, I paid half the hospital bill without being asked. They sent me the invoice with full confidence that I'd cover it, and I did. When my sister booked her wedding venue and needed a deposit, it was introduced as a family gift from you. Not even a conversation, just a charge that popped up in my bank account around 3 a.m. I glanced at the number, $6,700, and told myself it was fine, that they'd do the same for me. But they never did. I moved homes twice in 3 years. Neither time did anyone lift a box. When I had bronchitis and begged my mother to bring over some soup, she replied that she was too drained after yoga. On my birthday, I received a glittery cupcake in a text. Hope it's a good one. No call, no visit. Yet every time their birthdays rolled around, I was expected to show up with a bouquet, gifts, and dinner reservations. Once I forgot. My mother didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. I told myself it wasn't worth making a fuss. People love in different ways. I reasoned. Maybe I wasn't being generous enough, so I kept giving, worked harder, made sure their account always had enough. Did the math one day, $3,100 per month. For 6 years. That's $151,200. But it didn't hit me like a number. Not until I heard that call. She's a burden, not forgotten. Not just underappreciated, a drag, a weight, something that made their lives worse by existing. The words stuck. I replayed them every night that week, like a record with a crack. I could hear his coffee mug tapping the table, the shuffle of a newspaper. My mother's quiet sigh of agreement. We should have just sent her away at 18. While they planned their Europe trip, I was sitting in a rental apartment I had paid for in full, so I could transfer my home's deed privately. I kept every receipt, every wire transfer, every email from my real estate agent. A screenshot of the final purchase confirmation. The house, my dream home, was empty now. I had donated every piece of furniture, closed every joint account, removed my name from anything that connected us. Each string snipped with surgical precision. But I still hadn't told them. I wanted them to feel it, to walk into it. And that moment came sooner than I expected. Exactly 1 week later, my sister messaged me. "You're still covering Mom's therapy this month, right?"
No, hey. No. How are you?
Just the same assumption. The same presumption that I would keep funding everyone's life, as if it were automatic. I typed back, "Of course." Then I logged into the portal and canceled the payment for good. That weekend they posted pictures from Paris. My father was grinning under the Eiffel Tower. My mother wore a bright red beret clutching a glass of wine in a bistro somewhere along the Seine, living the fantasy. Still in the bubble I'd financed, unaware it had already burst. I watched the video twice. I couldn't help myself. There was a glint on my mother's hand. A ring, gold, with tiny diamond flecks. The anniversary band I had bought for their 35th year together. They had never said thank you, just wore it like it was always theirs. I logged out after that. The final home transfer had cleared. The keys now belonged to someone else. I left nothing behind. Not a single fork, not a lone photo, not even a coat hanger. The house was stripped to its bones. I didn't even leave behind a memory, just that note on the door and the quiet impact of absence. Because I wasn't their wallet anymore. I wasn't the dependable one. I wasn't even their family. I had become something else entirely. An unexpected storm they didn't see coming. They flew back on a Thursday. I had memorized the date, tracked it like someone following the path of a hurricane, not with fear but with the cool accuracy of a weather analyst. Their last Instagram post was a boomerang of champagne glasses, clinking under glass chandeliers in Venice. My mother captioned it, "Family first, always." I didn't react. I didn't feel anything. The house was already gone. They just didn't know it yet. They arrived sun-kissed and smiling, dragging their identical luggage through customs, ready to return to the life they assumed I'd been keeping warm in their absence. But the driveway was empty. No cars, no lights in the windows. They pulled out their keys, and the locks didn't turn. I pictured it clearly. My dad furrowing his brow, wiggling the key, trying again like the mechanism might suddenly shift out of loyalty. My mom stepped forward with hers. Two figures standing together, confused, waiting for reality to match their expectation, until they noticed the yellow sticky note taped to the front door. Surprise! This is what a burden can do. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. The mailbox was gone, dismantled. The alarm system was turned off. Utilities transferred. The homeowners association had been alerted. My name had been removed from everything. The framed family portraits I'd once hung down the hallway, gone. The monogrammed towels I'd gifted them last Christmas, donated. The cheesy little wooden sign in the entryway, "Home is where the heart is," thrown away. What remained was a clean slate, sterile, like they had never lived there. Like their entire comfort zone had been erased while they were sipping Bordeaux and pretending to be royalty. And it wasn't done out of rage. That would have implied emotion. I did it with clarity, cold, surgical detachment. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't after justice. I simply wanted to close a chapter that, in truth, had ended long before. Of course they called. Dozens of times. It started with confusion. "Hey, we're locked out. Can you call the alarm company?" Then suspicion. Did the garage code change? Then panic. Where's all our stuff? Why isn't the Wi-Fi working? Why isn't your number going through? I didn't reply. By midnight, every cousin, every aunt, every sibling had received some version of the same desperate message. They thought maybe it was a robbery, or a mistake, or a terrible joke. Then my mother left a voicemail. She never used my work phone, but somehow she dug up the number. And the voice she used was one I hadn't heard in years, shaky, cracked, like glass threatening to split. "Please," she said, "just tell us what's going on. We're staying in a hotel. The house is empty. The neighbor said a moving truck came last week. Was that you? Did something happen?" Yes, something happened. I kept the voicemail. Not to gloat. There's no joy in it. Only confirmation. Because even after all of it, calling me a burden, draining my accounts, forgetting me on birthdays, they still expected help. That was the moment something inside me broke completely. Not from anger, from understanding that they weren't ever going to change. Overheard. No matter how much I gave, no matter how many bills I paid, no matter how many holidays I remembered, or how many emergencies I handled, I would always be their optional fallback, their financial safety net, their silent, invisible daughter. They didn't scream when I left. They only panicked when the money stopped. I had given them 6 years of unwavering support, loyalty without limits, and in return, they offered silence, entitlement, conditional love that evaporated the moment I stopped being useful. So I gave them exactly what they'd earned. Nothing. The fallout came fast. The next morning, I had 42 missed calls by 7:13 a.m., 3 voicemails from my mother. One after another, growing more frantic. The first was puzzled. "We don't understand. Just call us back." The second turned to pleading. "Please, we're scared. We need to know what's happening." The third tipped into desperation. "We just need to talk. Please tell us what you did." I said nothing. Instead, I logged into the last banking site they'd forgotten I had access to. A joint savings account I had set up for emergencies, mostly filled with deposits from me. There was just over $12,000 in it. I moved the entire balance into a private trust. One click, then I closed the account for good. Next was the homeowner's insurance. Still in my name because they never bothered to update it. I canceled it, informed the insurance company that the home had been sold, got the confirmation email. A few minutes later, It felt oddly mechanical, like deleting an unused app. One more cord severed. One less illusion, holding us together. That same afternoon, my father emailed me. No subject line, just a wall of text, 600 words of blame, guilt, and quiet begging. He insisted I'd misunderstood, that the word burden had referred to the situation, not me. Then, as if forgetting the apology entirely, he asked if I could help them find a lawyer, said the new homeowners had changed the locks illegally. Illegally. I almost laughed. They had no idea the house hadn't legally been theirs for over a year. I'd quietly transferred the deed into a shell trust. My accountant helped me set up. That trust was owned by an LLC, which sold the house for cash. Every step was deliberate, protected, untraceable. They weren't just locked out of a building. I'd finally escaped the dynamic. By day 3, my sister weighed in. The same sister who used to send me screenshots of her Venmo requests with zero shame. She texted, "You really gonna do this to mom and dad? After everything they've done?" I read it twice. Everything they've done. The phrase echoed in my mind, like static.
Like background noise. I couldn't turn off.
Everything they've done. Did she mean the family dinners I wasn't invited to, but paid for? Did she mean the holidays I covered from a distance, never asked to attend? Did she mean the therapy sessions I funded so my mother could cope with the stress of having me around? That's what she meant by everything. All the erasure, all the manipulation, packaged neatly into a guilt trip she assumed would work. I didn't answer her either. Instead, I filed one final document, the estate planning forms I had been sitting on for months, forms that removed my family from every emergency contact list, from any medical power of attorney, from any future asset claims. I submitted them that Friday. By Monday, they were legally out of my life. They didn't just lose a house, they lost their crutch. And I had spent too long holding them up, thinking I was helping, when in truth, I was just postponing the inevitable. I also remembered the storage unit, the one packed with family heirlooms and precious things they swore they'd collect soon. I had been paying the monthly fee, quietly, just like everything else. I gave the facility 30 days notice, no extension. They panicked. Called the storage company in a frenzy. "It's a mistake," they said. It wasn't. I sold it all, the couch I bought, the antique sideboard, even the espresso machine they once mocked for being too nice for us, before demanding it anyway. Listed, sold old, gone. When my PayPal balance cleared, I made one final deposit to myself. No note, no goodbye, just peace. The group chat eventually fell silent. No more sarcastic memes, no more digs cloaked as jokes, no more passive-aggressive messages designed to reel me back in, just digital dust. My mother's final post was an old photo of me at 8 years old, standing stiff beside her at a family picnic. Her caption was short. "You were always so sensitive. It didn't hurt. If anything, it confirmed everything I'd already known. Because I wasn't sensitive. I was done." They never got the sticky note back, though they tried. 3 days later, they returned to the house with a locksmith in tow. I had expected it. I watched from a distance, not through a phone screen, not from another city, but from a quiet parked car 2 streets away, engine off, hidden beneath the shade of an old elm. They stepped out of the Uber like returning royalty. My father looked smaller somehow. My mother didn't say anything at all, just stood on the porch, staring at the door, willing it to open from guilt or memory. It didn't. They tried the keys again. Still no luck. They pointed at the lock. The locksmith shook his head, explained that the deed was no longer in their name, that the house had been sold legally, that there was nothing he could do. 10 minutes later they left. The house remained still, so did I. That silence, that deliberate, echoing silence, was the real ending. There was no showdown, no shouting match, no screaming about betrayal or forgiveness. Just the quiet click of finality. Oh, they hadn't lost a house. They had lost access to the only person who ever kept them above water. They didn't mourn my absence. They mourned the vanishing of their security blanket.
Oh.
And to be fair, I was their net. I had stitched it myself, thread by thread, year by year, but a net without respect will always unravel. They cried not because they missed me. They cried because they had no backup anymore. And I made sure they felt the full weight of their loss. One by one, I removed myself from family group chats, from shared photo albums, from the Google Calendar they used to coordinate the holidays. I never attended. No dramatic exit, just silence. A few days later, a letter arrived from a paralegal. No signature, no warmth, just a folded page full of vague legalese, something about misunderstandings and potential estate clarifications. I didn't even open it. I slid it into the shredder. Then I made myself tea. 2 days after that, my old neighbor texted me. Your parents came by again, looked confused, just stood in the driveway like they didn't understand. Like this wasn't years in the making. I blocked the number. Eventually the calls stopped. After the second week it seemed like reality had finally sunk in. Not only had they lost access to the house, they had completely lost access to me. The last message came from my sister, and it arrived from a different number, like she thought I wouldn't recognize it. The text was short. You're really never going to talk to us again. No greeting, no apology, just disbelief, as if I couldn't possibly function without them. I didn't reply. Instead, I took a walk. It was cold that evening, the kind of chill that sticks to your skin and makes the air feel crisp alive. The pavement was damp with the memory of recent rain. I walked past the pharmacy where I used to pick up my mother's medications, past the bakery where I'd grab pastries on the weekends. Always for them, never for me. No one had ever thanked me, but those were just buildings now. Places without meaning, structures without weight. I breathed in deeply. It felt like the first full breath I'd taken in years. People don't understand what it means to be the quiet one, the reliable one, the person who never asks for anything, never makes a fuss, never rocks the boat. They think your silence means agreement, that your lack of protest is permission. But silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's strategy, and sometimes it's planning. Now they rent a small condo on the outskirts of town. I saw it once by accident listed on a rental site. I'd been browsing when looking for an apartment nearly a year ago. Cheap laminate floors, faded paint, no sunlight in the living room windows. I wondered if they ever stared out from behind those curtains, trying to figure out where everything went. If they ever thought back to that sticky note, that door, that moment, surprise. This is what a burden can do. They don't post much anymore. My mother used to flood her feed with brunch photos, spa selfies, and hashtags about family first. Now it's mostly quiet. Once in a while, a reshared quote about bridges and forgiveness. Someone commented under one post, "Don't burn bridges." But they never realized the bridge was never theirs. They were just standing on it while I built the road underneath. And when I walked away, the whole thing collapsed. My bank accounts are quiet now. There are no mystery charges I don't remember authorizing. No auto payments for electricity in a house I no longer live in. No Venmo requests that arrive like clockwork on the first of every month, disguised as casual greetings. I used to send out money like it was air, like I had an endless supply of it, like I owed it to people who only noticed me when the rent was due. Now it stays where it belongs. With me, I moved into a new place. Not bigger, not fancier, just mine. Every lamp, every curtain, every dish was chosen by me. For me, there's no guilt in the drywall, no memories in the floorboards, no echo of sacrifices made without recognition. Just space, real solid, earned space. And at night, I sleep, not lightly, not restlessly, but deeply. No more jolting awake with panic over forgotten transfers. No more questions spinning through my head like, will she be upset if I say no, or did I cover the balance? Those voices have gone quiet. The space they left behind feels enormous. Some nights I still hear that call, the one he never meant me to hear. She's a burden, a disappointment, should have never been born, but I don't flinch anymore. I don't try to argue with the memory. I don't chase down explanations or look for loopholes in his tone. I don't build defenses against ghosts. I let the words echo if they want to. Then I remind myself, my name was on that deed. That house was mine. And now, so is the silence. That's the real ending.